Now, this week we were all glued to the screen as Donald Trump delivered his joint address to Congress. A 90-plus minute speech, the longest in over 60 years, was full of the expected and the unexpected, delivered in trademark Trump style. Here's one of the best bits.
Joining us in the gallery tonight is a young man who truly loves our police. His name is DJ Daniel. He is 13 years old, and he has always dreamed of becoming a police officer. In 2018, DJ was diagnosed with brain cancer. The doctors gave him 5 months at most to live. And tonight, DJ, we're going to do you the biggest honor of them all. I am asking our new Secret Service Director, Sean Curran, to officially make you an agent of the United States Secret Service.
And this is the young boy's story.
I had 13 brain surgeries, and that's how many times my personality has changed. And that's something that you don't hear from a terminally ill child. They had 5 months to live. I'm gonna keep on going until my gas tanks run out. And that's when God calls you home. You never know when God's gonna call you home. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for my dad. And I know he's pretty proud of me, and I'm pretty proud of him too. And I'd like to thank President Trump, because if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't be here today.
And he even got to visit the Oval Office. Now, you think that everyone would just embrace that young boy, his story, and the very kind honour bestowed upon him. But no. Rachel Maddow from MSNBC had this to say.
For the record, and this is disgusting, the president made a spectacle out of praising a young man who thus far survived pediatric cancer, as if the president had something to do with that.
And Nicole Wallace wasn't any better.
I hope he has a long life as a law enforcement officer, but I hope he never has to defend the United States Capitol against Donald Trump's supporters. And if he does, I hope he isn't one of the 6 who loses his life to suicide.
There were also various headlines labelling the speech as divisive, and our friends at The Guardian focused on the Democrats' resistance and disturbance in the chamber rather than the actual substance of the speech. But unsurprisingly, the people seemed to like what Trump had to say, and a CBS News poll showed 76% approved of the speech. Joining me now from New York is filmmaker Ami Horowitz. Ami, we continue to see this chasm between the positions of the establishment media and the Democrats on one side and everyday people on the other. This seems to me to just be another example. Has the media not worked out yet that they've been played like a fiddle?
No, the mainstream media hasn't worked out anything. If they did, they wouldn't be seeing their numbers plummeting year after year after year. They are 100% out of touch, both with what people want and the fact that they're not serving it, and therefore they are actually feeding their own destruction. And this example of what happened with Trump's speech is another example of their failure to understand the disconnect from the people who were supposed to be paying to watch their shows. Yes, look, the polls were significantly in favor of the president. You broke them down based on Democrat, Republican, Independent. Essentially, that 75% was all independent and all Republicans, right? They lost basically all the independents. That's where the game is politically and also in the media. And no, they refuse to acknowledge it. They doubled down this lunacy. It is costing them viewers. It is costing them money. I mean, look, before the speech even happened, I was watching CNN and MSNBC, as I generally do. I want to see the perspective there. And they began the attacks before the speech even began. They were attacking, they were delegitimizing all the accomplishments. They're breaking down, for example, when it comes to immigration, they're saying in this immigration, massive drop, 90, in some cases, 95% drop in illegal immigration is not due to the president. I was like, what world are you living in? They're disconnected from reality. And of course, after the speech, it's like there's the idea of the multiverse, right? Where you have this idea of multiverse, we have an infinite amount of universes that exist in the same time and space, that everything that possibly could happen is happening concurrently in one of these multiverses. It's like 2 of these multiverses collided, and now we're in the same space and time, but we're seeing things exactly differently, almost opposite from each other. And the media cannot figure it out. It's crazy.
It is crazy, and you refer to that plummeting viewership. We've seen progressive hosts like Joy Reid, she's lost her show. Will they work out that the landscape has changed? Because at some point, they need to be reasonable to survive.
No. Of course not. No. Is that a rhetorical question? They have not worked it out. They will not work it out. They're in a death spiral. They're desperate to figure out how to get out of it, and they simply can't. And I'm listening to those clips you played. Oh my God, Rachel Maddow saying it's disgusting. You're disgusting. Are you serious right now? I mean, the fact that he's calling out, first of all, look, Rita said that, yes, I can sometimes be cynical and heartless. She may be true. I don't know. Ask my family, my friends. But the truth is that, yeah, it was very heartwarming to see this kid with brain cancer, terminal brain cancer, get this award. They couldn't even let the president have that. And then Nicole Wallace, I don't know what happened to her. God, am I crazy? Wasn't she a Republican at some point? But she goes on and she's going back to the same tropes of January 6th. Nicole, no one cares. We've moved off of that. You are still going over January 6th. That's why MSNBC ratings have plummeted because of that. Move on. Find something new. God, what is going on?
Oh, look, we're all waiting and let's see if it happens. But also late last week, we saw that very tense exchange between Donald Trump, J.D. Vance and President Zelensky. Here's a short clip for anyone who's been living under a rock.
And do you think that it's respectful to come to the Oval Office of the United States of America and attack the administration that is trying to prevent the destruction of your country?
A lot of questions. Let's start from the beginning.
Sure.
First of all, during the war, everybody has problems. Even you, but you have nice ocean and don't feel now, but you will feel it in the future. God bless.
You don't know that.
God bless. God bless. You will not have a war.
Don't tell us what we're going to feel. We're trying to solve a problem. Don't tell us what we're going to feel.
I'm not telling you.
Because you're in no position to dictate that.
That's
Remember
exactly what
this. You're in no position to dictate what we're going to feel.
Now, this has elicited some pretty wild responses from the media. There was this spicy clash on CNN.
President Zelensky was the instigator in this conversation.
You are absolutely wrong, and you are perpetuating the propaganda of Russia.
That wasn't propaganda. He interjected himself.
I'm offended by that.
I am offended by what you say and how you present this entire situation. I'm an alumni of
You're offended that the United States wants to negotiate an end to the
United
war.
States Army. That's what I'm an alumni of. And millions of veterans around this country saw that today on our outrage of all backgrounds because of the way it was conducted and because there are people like you who are standing with Putin instead of with America.
That's not standing with Putin to say that Zelensky shouldn't have opened his mouth. Why did Zelensky ask J.D. Vance a question?
And others took a very different view.
This isn't the first time that Zelensky has seemed to kind of shake America down. I remember there was the deal over
shake
NATO.
America down.
But that's what he's doing.
I understand he's fighting for the life of his country.
Well, when you come before the United States of America in the Oval Office, then you need to show.
Where there was so much decorum today.
Well, they responded to him.
Elon was in there the other day in a baseball cap.
You come in there being disrespectful, and you're going to find out the response to it. That's what he was. He was being disrespectful.
And this longtime supporter of Ukraine shocked us all with the headline, Zelensky must mend breach with Trump or resign. Now, Ami, we get that this meeting didn't play out in the usual way, but it feels like the responses have been very divergent, very unpredictable. There was just so little middle ground. What's your view on how it landed in the US?
Oh, I got to be honest, it's really hard to watch that train wreck of a meeting. I mean, that really went off the rails, unquestionably about it. And by the way, no one was covered in glory in that Oval Office meeting, just so we're clear. I mean, look, okay, let's give this some context, okay? It's so curious to me, right, why the left and the media have somehow become so anti-Russian, right? Let's take a look at that for a second. Like, they have become so, almost like proto-Republican in the 80s. Like, don't you remember, do we not forget that when Obama was debating Romney and Romney was going after Russia, right? And Obama was like, hey, Mitt, the 80s are calling. They want their foreign policy back, right? And all of a sudden, like, it was, then it was not The liberals would laugh at Republicans. They're so stridently anti-Russian, and it's all kind of flip, right? And now they're like pro-Ukraine. They're like war hawks. Why is that, right? Why have they done that? It's because they've looked at Trump, wrongly, by the way. They look at Trump and saying he's pro-Putin, therefore we have to hate Trump. And hating Trump means hating Russia, right? That's really what the basis of all this pro-Ukraine beating the war drums that we hear from the left. And the media has really, really picked up that water and carried it for the Democrats. And by the way, let's not forget, they also are using Russia because they're so invested in that narrative that Trump is a cat's paw for Putin that they haven't given that up. They haven't given up the ghost on that argument because they've invested so much of their time and their credibility in that false argument. They cannot let it go, right? And I think that's what the major problem you see with the media and the left when it comes to Russia today. Now, by the way, I don't disagree with them. I happen to think Russia is an enemy. I haven't changed my position on that. And by the way, it bothers me that some Republicans, not most, but some Republicans really have defended Russia and attacked Ukraine. I don't like that at all. I didn't like when the president called Zelensky a dictator, right? But at the same time, look, Zelensky, obviously he walked into something and he screwed up. No question about it. He was told beforehand, guys, he said, Zelensky, do not focus on security guarantees. You'll get them when you have an economic tie-in together, which is the whole point of that meeting. And he disregarded that and went right into it. And then J.D. Vance jumped in from the top rope and went bam. And look, that's what precipitated this whole thing. Look, the whole thing was ugly. But yeah, the media, they have no credibility come to this. Absolutely none.
And the mainstream media, they're still struggling even to come to terms with the Democrats' loss last November. Now, here's ESPN host Stephen A. Smith sparring with the ladies on The View.
He's been going around with his cronies touting his so-called landslide and blowout win. But he won the popular vote by 1.5%, one of the smallest ever, and he won the general election by less than 50%. So what kind of mandate is this really?
Well, it is a mandate, and I'm going to explain why. And I don't mind the question, but let me be very clear. I'm no supporter of Trump. I'm a supporter of truth and the facts. And here's the facts. The man won every swing state. He increased in terms of his voter turnout in his favor from the standpoint of blacks, Latinos, and young voters. He increased his numbers in that regard from 2020. 89% of the counties shifted to the right. That's a mandate.
So instead of learning from their mistakes, the revisionism has just started. As Stephen A. Smith said, he's no fan of Trump, but at least he's willing to have the conversations that others in the media don't appear willing to have.
Yeah, Stephen A. Look, Stephen A. And I had a Twitter war once. I didn't like him at that point, but I really have been turned around on him. Stephen A. really is seeking the truth. I still don't know what his real politics are. I got to be honest. And it's even more surprising because he comes from sports, and sports has become a repository of wokeness, right? You watch ESPN, you even watch Fox Sports sometimes. I hate to say it. And you watch you watch sports talk shows and talk radio, and there's a lot of like progressive wokeness there. I mean, let's not forget that you're watching, football, the real football, guys, American football. And it says end racism in the end zone, right? I'm like, okay, yeah, okay. They wrote end racism and all about love in the helmets, and therefore we're all good. It's all love and racism is over because they wrote it down there. So it's even particularly surprising that he can be such a truth sayer when he's coming from sports, was kind of, gone so left. So it's impressive. But no, the media continue. They have learned no lessons from this election. Zero, none. It's unbelievable to me. They continue to go down this road. They lost this election in no small part because the media had no credibility to the American electorate. That every time they said democracy is going to end, no one believed it. They didn't like it. They pushed back, and that's why Trump is president. So good for Stephen A. Smith to go on The View and to speak truth to power. Not that they have any power. They have no power. No one watches them.
But speaking of the truth, and lastly, Jeff Bezos recently announced an overhaul to the Washington Post opinion page, notably that the opinion pages will soon be writing every day in support and defence of two pillars: personal liberties and free markets. We'll cover other topics too, of course, but viewpoints opposing those pillars will be left to be published by others. Now, there's obviously been backlash, Ami, and Bezos has similarly clapped back at his critics, saying that there was nothing fascist about free markets. I mean, Ami, I think fascist is one of the great misused words of the modern day, but more to the point, the overhaul actually sounds pretty sensible to me, and I'm pretty sure if Bezos is doing it, it's because it's a lucrative one. I don't think the whinging of the left is du jour.
Now, first of all, fascism has become hollowed out and meaningless because when everything is fascist, nothing is fascist, just like racism. When everything is racist, nothing is racist. Two of the great misgivings I have had over language is the denuding of those two particularly powerful words that now mean nothing. They've been hollowed out. But look, I have to be honest, something that's so delicious about Trump winning is watching our tech overlords kiss the rings of President Trump. And you saw Mark Zuckerberg with Facebook do an absolute about face. Now you're seeing Jeff Bezos do the same thing. I think it's delicious. I think it's wonderful. Love to see it. I'm here for it. Yeah, the Washington Post. Look, this is the paper of record, right? The Washington Post, the one that broke the Watergate scandal. Oh, how far the mighty have fallen. They've become gross. They become, the holy grail of wokeness, along with the New York Times. But they've failed more than New York Times. New York Times at least has they've been able to put together a business model which has worked. The Washington Post has not been able to do that. The Washington Post has seen a viewership crater, and they've had no ability whatsoever to get them back. So I think what you see there is Bezos seeing two things. One is, don't get on the bad side of Trump, A, and B, he sees this asset that he bought losing value every single day, and he's desperate to find something that will turn it around. And now, thankfully, he's saying we're now going to push two issues, personal freedom and the free markets. Thank God, decades too late, but I'll take it. By the way, I've never thought that newspapers should actually take positions on endorsing presidents. I always thought it didn't make sense. It was kind of icky. And I'm glad they decided not to endorse anybody. And I thought it's a right move, and maybe that will save them. I doubt it, but who the hell knows?
Anyway, no doubt we will see. Ami Horowitz, thank you so much for your time.